Hi everybody, I am Ryan Prue, and today I'm going to be talking about the economic impact of self-driving cars, or autonomous cars, in Boston. Alright, I'm going to give a little bit of background about self-driving cars. So they obviously are more efficient in that they're electric, they offer more privacy than regular cars, and they're going to affect things such as unemployment, the economy, the layout of cities, and they're also going to take money from the cities. But I'm going to go into more detail on this later in the video. I'm going to talk now a little bit about my thesis, but again, I'm going to go into more detail as the video progresses. So in general, drivers are going to lose their jobs, whether it be taxi drivers here or bus drivers as well. They're both in danger of losing their jobs and losing a lot of money. As well, the driverless cars are going to take money from the city, and they also cost a lot of money to accommodate, and that's not going to be good for the economy of the city. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the current technology in the world of self-driving cars, and that would be LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. And as we can see on the left there, you've put the LiDAR pack on top of the car, and it can sense things such as the road lines, other cars, and things like that. But in the 1930s, when it was invented, it costed a lot of money, almost $75,000. But in recent years, recent developments have dropped the price down to just a few thousand per car. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about taxi drivers and self-driving cars. There are thousands of taxi drivers in Boston, and unfortunately, when self-driving cars take over, they're most likely going to be jobless. And they make around $25,000 to $40,000 a year, and if you multiply that by 1,800 taxi drivers, that's $65 million in salary every year, and that will not be going to the city in the form of tax money. So this is going to lead to less consumer spending, as well as less taxes going to the city, which leads to less money to the institutions that need it, such as police stations, fire stations, as well as schools. Next up is ride sharing and minibuses. We are actually going to see an increase in the share of two-seater cars and minibuses. Minibuses are faster than regular buses. They offer more privacy. They can take more people to the same spot if you're having a party or something like that. And all in all, they're going to be more popular than buses. This is also going to lead to more bus drivers losing their jobs, a similar situation as the taxi drivers, which I previously mentioned. More regarding the economy, how will driverless cars actually take money from the city? Well, there are a few ways, and the first one is parking meters. A lot of the parking meters, if not all, are owned by the city, so they make all the money off of them. Another thing is parking tickets and speeding tickets, things like that. The city makes a lot of money off of those. In fact, one source showed that they made $58 million in 1 year from parking tickets alone. And that money could have gone to, as I said before, schools, police, fire, Medicaid, things like that. This is kind of a big question, but why is this decrease in money bad for the economy? Well, a decrease in city money is very likely to lead to higher taxes, as the city needs to make up for the money lost. Now a little bit about one of my sources. Mike Moffat is a professor of business, economics, and public policy, and has earned his PhD in business administration. And he says that productivity declines as taxes increase, and the higher the tax rate, the lower value of goods and services. This is going to lead to less economic activity, and goods are going to be worth less than they should be. And both of those are very negative effects on the economy. Next up, we have to ask the question, will people actually use self-driving cars? Well, let's investigate. I looked at a survey with 1,200 respondents, and unfortunately, 48% of them would elect to never get into a self-driving car. Now, this seems bleak at first, but let's look at some more data, because I believe that this distrust is due to a lack of experience. In fact, 58% of the people in the same survey said that they would have greater confidence if they could ride in one, which is a problem right now because not many self-driving cars are available to the public. In fact, owners of ADAS, which is technology such as automatic braking, 75% of them look to the future of driverless safety. And this is more forward thinking. And as time progresses, we're definitely going to see autonomous cars become more popular and more people are going to want to use them and they're going to feel safe in them. Next up, I'm going to talk about how much money the cars will cost to implement. As you may know, all self-driving cars will be electric, and electric cars need charging stations rather than gas stations. And in all of Boston, there are only 555 chargers, which is definitely not enough for the 300,000 cars that have been registered in the past 5 years in the greater Boston area. These charging stations also cost $750 each to make, and currently 62% of the chargers are free to use, and this data is from Home Advisor and ChargeHub. Now, what if the city decides to put a fee on all the chargers? They can make some of their money back, wouldn't be too much, but there's going to be a lot of angry civilians on their hands because already 62% of the chargers are free, and they're going to try and take that away from them, especially when everyone has an electric car and everyone's going to be using these stations. They're going to want them to be free. The parking situation in Boston is also going to lead to a big cost for the city. A study from the World Economic Forum and Boston Consulting Group shows that about half the city's current parking will be needed once self-driving cars are implemented. This includes parking garages and parking meters, both of which where cities make money. So for the parking garages, they're going to have to be replaced as they're not used. So what are they going to be replaced with? We don't know, but they're going to cost a lot of money to destroy them, to hire all the workers, and just cost in the tens of millions of dollars. So what if the city decides to turn these parking garages into a low-income housing community? Well, they could, but people are going to want to support the small businesses, like the individual landlords, rather than a whole city who's already taking a ton of their money. So this is definitely going to lead to less tenants actually choosing the city's housing, and it's already going to cost so much to destroy the parking garage and build the housing in the first place. Next, I'm going to talk about roads and how they affect self-driving cars. Well, driverless cars actually require better roads than the national average. And there are things such as faded lane markings and inconsistent signage that can cause problems with these self-driving cars. In fact, around 65% of US roads are in poor shape, and this is going to cost a lot of money to maintain for the city, as it's their job to maintain the roads. And if you think about how many roads are actually in Boston, it's going to cost the city millions every year just to keep them up to code. And this money could have, again, gone to schools, fire departments, things like that could have helped people. So it seems pretty bad for cities right now. It seems like they're going to lose a lot of money. But let's hear some solutions that they could possibly do. They could create legislation to maybe create some laws to limit the number of self-driving cars, which would help create a more seamless transition between our world now and lives with self-driving cars. They could not change the money that goes to schools or police or fire or Medicaid, so this way the institutions that need the money would still be getting it. They could also offer more jobs to taxi and bus drivers that they could do, and this would also lead to more money going back into the city and the economy. And finally, the conclusion. Clearly, self-driving cars have a very powerful influence on the economies of cities. There's a huge cost to cater to these cars, and there are a lot of benefits, but there are also some cons to it. It also leads to less money to go to schools, which could lead to students getting worse education, which can have an even longer lasting impact on their lives. And that's all for me, and I hope you enjoyed.